Good evening and welcome to Aging Matters, the program sponsored by the Berks County Area Agency on Aging. My name is Ann Barlet and I'm the Manager of Community Outreach and Education for the agency. My guest this evening, I'll start by introducing my guest, is Rita Miller. Rita is a psychiatric nurse therapist, and we've got a great program this evening. Since February is Heart Month, everybody, I think, thinks of Heart Month as love and hearts and valentines and flowers. I, of course, think chocolate. But I also think that we also think about heart health and cardiovascular issues and taking care of our heart with healthy eating and probably exercise. But when I stopped to think of the show this evening and looked at different angles, my thought was really actually thinking about the folks that are really caregiving for other people, who give from their heart, who work, whether it's short periods of time or occasionally giving some care, or whether it's every day for many hours each day. They are, caregiving is a matter of the heart. And for them, I say that we're looking at ways that we can help you be more heart healthy in this month of February. So good evening, folks, and I wanted to let you know that if you have any kinds of questions for us this evening, please call us here at the studio at 610-378-0426. So let's get started, Rita, right away. The topic or the area that I thought is how can we be taking care of ourselves, being better, taking care of our heart so it doesn't get broken while we're caregiving for others. And initially, I think we always think about the two components, physical health and mental health, and keeping healthy in both of those arenas. So maybe we can start a little bit with the physical, heart health component of taking care of ourselves.
I think that's a really good place to start, because one of the aspects of being a caregiver is you tend to be very other-directed, very focused on other people. How's everybody else doing? And your own health keeps getting put many times down at the bottom of the list. And that's why it's great that you have this topic tonight to say this is a chance for caregivers to look inside, check inside themselves and say, how am I doing? Because if you're not doing very well, you're not going to be of much use to other people over the long haul. So it's time to stop a little bit and check inside. How am I doing? How am I feeling? Okay. Go ahead.
And so I think that's a combination of things, isn't it? I think tonight we're going to talk about a variety of things that we can do. Physically and mentally, it is literally taking care of ourselves,
right.
Thinking about eating a little healthier. Maybe it's easier to reach for the quick junk food or the quick snack because it's fast. We're trying to do, as you said, many things. We're not thinking about ourselves. We're caring for others. So it is really easy to quick snack on this or pick on that, when it may not take us much longer to really focus on maybe cooking a few meals ahead of time and making it healthy, so we have something available, even if it's quick veggie snacks that I can grab while I'm doing something else. We can think about eating a little healthier and adding some kind of physical activity. I hate the word exercise, but some kind of physical activity that we can keep the heart working and maybe even get a little out of our, get frustration out or stress out if we're moving a little bit. What do you think about the physical and components of that?
I think those are very vital and very crucial. And one of the reasons why February is Heart Month, because, okay, it is Valentine, and we think hearts and flowers. We think chocolate, which actually they have found that dark chocolate, 1 square a day, though, is actually very heart healthy for us. They also found that red wine is healthy, and I bet you're glad you tuned in now, because these are good things. One of the reasons that I agreed to do this program and was very honored to be invited by you is that heart disease is the #1 killer of men, and we've always known that because most of the research has been done on men. but it's also the #1 killer of women. And many people are surprised about that because many people think that breast cancer is. And actually, 1 in 3 women will die of heart disease, but 1 in 31 women will die of breast cancer, plus all the other cancers combined. So that's why we're taking a look at how's your heart, and want you to love your heart tonight. And one of the first things is, if you think about, if you were your own 8-year-old child, how would you be feeding yourself? Would you say, you know what, have a cup of coffee and then go to school? You know, eat a bag of Doritos on the bus and you'll be fine. Yeah, and yet we're on the run, and as you said, we don't grab the veggies sometimes. We grab whatever is quick because we are always so hurried. And so this is a time, too, to take a step and say, how am I feeding myself? How much sleep am I getting? A lot of people are sleep deprived. How much water am I drinking? 45% of women, I'm tending to focus a little bit on women tonight, 45% of women are not drinking enough water. And I think the other 55% are standing in line waiting to go to a ladies' room somewhere. But we're not paying attention to what we're putting into our bodies and how we are treating ourselves. How well are you sleeping? I had one person say, I could not sleep because my daughter texted me 10 times during the night. And I said, did you ever think of turning off your phone? Many times we have to tune out a little bit and allow ourselves to take care that way. Eating, as you were saying, shake it up a little bit. Instead of eating what you've always eaten and hoped for better results, try eating just a little bit differently. Just tweak it. For example, one of the examples that I thought, there's certain things we just do it the way we've always done it. I've started to eat cereal in the morning now, not sweetened cereal. And everybody says, well, okay, that's good. But do you ever put fruit in your cereal? And we're supposed to have how many servings of fruit and vegetables a day? And people go, oh, it's so hard. It's so hard to get that. My thought is, why do we put fruit in our cereal? Why don't we have a bowl of fruit and put some cereal in it? Change it up. Instead of drinking a glass of orange juice, eat an orange. Now you've got fiber. We Americans eat so little fiber, and yet fiber does so many good things for us, but we don't pay attention to that. Here's a chance to pay attention to some of that.
Good. Well, thank you. And it is little things, and I think if we just are conscious of those little changes. When we first come home from the store, if we have a few minutes, then, pull apart some vegetables or pull apart some fruits and have it there so that we can do that a little easier. And it might jump out at us.
Exactly. Or a lot of people, if you think lunch, you think sandwich. Well, who says you have to have it as a sandwich? Why don't you take whatever you'd put in a sandwich, but make it as a salad? And that way, cut out bread and still do everything else that you always do, but you've cut out that one thing. You could be losing weight very gradually, or at least not gaining weight. So I'm just talking little tweaks, just tiny tweaks to what you ordinarily do.
And it certainly is good for your heart, isn't it?
Well, you have to be mindful, and those are things that are heart healthy to do.
Yes. Thank you.
Then there's exercise.
Oh no.
I am not a gym person. I have what you call gym intimidation. That you feel like, oh, everybody's there in those adorable little outfits and they know how to use all those machines, and I feel so intimidated. But who says that that's the only way to exercise? Why don't we just make up our minds to just move a little more? Move a little more. And you can move inside your house.
I know, dancing. Just put on some favorite tunes and
dance
a little bit, right?
Okay. I'm telling you're not. It would be interesting to. Wouldn't it be interesting in your household when you brush your teeth, you march at the same time, it will mystify everyone who lives in your household. They will go, what is up with
You don't
her?
have to get the toothpaste.
That's right. Well, okay.
That could be a problem.
That could be a problem. Okay. There's also, you don't have to go to the gym. Guess what? You can go into your kitchen to do a workout.
Mm-hmm.
There is a wonderful kitchen workout on the Go Red for Women
okay.
online.
Okay.
A woman named Andia Winslow does this. And it's really kind of a fun workout where you take a can of, I took a can of red beets and a can of corn, sat it out on the counter the other night. And my husband goes, oh, are we having red beets? Are we having corn? I said, no. He said, well, what are they out here for? I said, I am doing bicep curls with those. He said, right. But I did. I was doing bicep curls with those, all right? That's another kitchen exercise.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we have some classes through the Berks County Area Agency on Aging that are combinations of Healthy Steps in Motion exercise classes, but Healthy Steps for older adults to prevent falling. And so some other things that we talk about, and I call them kitchen exercises too, is just little, when you've got a handy device called a kitchen counter. And you can do the same thing, just holding on and kind of build some of the bicep muscle, or the quads, excuse me, by doing just some heel lifts. And you know, there are times when you're waiting. You know, I have something on the stove to boil. I threw in my coffee, you know, a minute or two to microwave to heat up. I can do those in that time frame, so I'm not spending more time, but I'm getting a little bit in. So yeah, that's great.
Right. And if you're mindful of it, you have opportunities to do that in the everyday. And if the other people in the house are looking at you and going, what is she doing? Let them guess. All right? It makes life a little bit more interesting at the same time, but you're moving more. You're moving.
Good. Yep. Yeah. Good. What I'd like to do now is, we've got the basics. We know, you know, and again, a checkup. Make sure that we do see our healthcare professional just to make sure that we don't have other conditions, blood pressure and whatnot, that might be uncontrolled, that we want to make sure we keep controlled for heart health. But I really want to get back a little bit further and talk more about things that we can do. How can we, what can the caregiver in particular do to give back to themselves, as you said, take a few minutes, take some time, or time out for yourself? And I think let's talk about that, Rita. What are some ways that if I'm a person caregiving, or I'm, you know, and again, it doesn't have to be full-time. I can be the person trying to caregive for children, caregive for a senior citizen parent or grandparent, and I'm trying to kind of do my stuff too. What kinds of tips or techniques or things that you can share with us to help with that?
Well, I think the number one thing is awareness. If you start to feel frazzled and you start to feel irritated, and here you are, you're this good-hearted caregiver, you care about people, you've committed, maybe you're overcommitted sometimes. That's a time when you have to kind of take a step back and go, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? And just give yourself like a little bit of a timeout. Some of you may have remembered when children are little and they're out of sorts and they're naughty. Some of you in the audience may remember the concept of a timeout. We didn't have that when my kids were little, so we just spanked them.
And I was an angel. So.
And you were an angel, so you had no knowledge of this. That's right. But I can remember when I used to take care of my first grandson, and he was like 3 years old, and he was all naughty and out of sorts one day. And I looked at him and I said, do you need a timeout? And he went, yes. And I thought, you know, the child has the wisdom to know he needed to stop what he was doing, and he needed a timeout. And I actually used a little egg timer, which this is pre-digital age. And, you know, he was sitting there being real good, and I said, okay, you can get up. He said, no, I still need that time. So we have all had that kind of wisdom. We need to tap into that wisdom to know when we have to stop or just at least slow down.
And what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, a time out right now. We'll take a little bit and we'll be right back. Thank you.
You're watching bctv.org. Be informed, be involved, be a member. For membership information, go to www.bctv.org/support/membership. For other stories and information, go to bctv.org.
Welcome back from our time out or our break. And I just want to remind folks that please, if you have any ideas or tips for us when we're talking about helping yourself, caring for yourself, taking some time for yourself, doing some things, give us some tips, please give us a call here at 610-378-0426. So Rita, let's get back to what we were talking about. We were talking about recognizing or the awareness when we are getting a little overwhelmed to just kind of stop, take the break, take the time out. So let's get back to that.
Well, what happens if you ignore that and you don't do that, sometimes then you start to get angry and you start to get irritated with people, and you start to even feel at times peopled out, which is really a dilemma for a caregiver, because caregivers are usually people persons. And so then they start to think, oh, I'm a terrible person. What is wrong with me? Everybody's on my nerves. And so they might tend to want to isolate a little bit. And actually, that's what you don't need to do. What you need to do is you need to reach out. That's when you need to let somebody know, you know what, I'm not so fine. I don't know, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. That's when you might need to let like a little bit of help in, and to know you're not the center of the universe. There are other people who can help you do some of the things you do.
And I think that's, I'm glad you pointed that, because I think that's also very hard for that caregiver. They've gotten into giving that care, and that's become maybe their focus, or just trying, as you said in the beginning, to kind of do all of these things and handle it for many people, and to pull back and realize, take that time out and then ask for some help, or seek out something isn't always the easiest to remember to do.
That's true. And so you have to do that, reaching out, because one of the things that happens with stress, we all know about the adrenaline surge that you feel with stress. We all know that to be flooded with the cortisol. These are the stress hormones that happen. But something else happens when we're stressed that many of us are not aware of, or that we fight it a little bit. Your pituitary gland will release the hormone oxytocin. And oxytocin is a hormone that makes people want to seek support. It makes people gravitate toward other people. And one of the qualities of oxytocin, in fact, some people call it the cuddle hormone. So I thought for, February about, get your cuddle hormone going.
Okay.
And tell somebody, let down a little bit. Let them know how you're doing. Connect with someone. Another function of the oxytocin is it helps heart cells regenerate. So it's actually physiologically very good for your heart. It's also a natural anti-inflammatory, so you can cut down on the ibuprofen. You can cut down on taking pills to get through something. And guess what is something we can do that releases oxytocin?
Tell me.
Hug.
Okay.
Anybody's capable. You can give a hug. So, I mean, be selective. You don't want to go up to a perfect stranger.
Well, I might want to.
But yeah, you might want to, but that could be tricky.
Yes.
But giving a hug is something that releases the oxytocin of both people. And so it's a real feel-good kind of thing, and a simple thing.
Yes.
And how many times have you seen somebody who they're down and out, and they're overwhelmed, and you look at them and you go, do you need a hug? And they go, yes, I do. Yeah. Do the hug.
Okay.
Do the hug, yes.
All right.
Because what can happen, if you keep going and you don't allow anybody in, your stress can continue to build, and you're isolated. Now you think, nobody cares about me. I care about all these people, but nobody cares about me. And then you get into, oh, poor me, and that's a terrible place to be. And then what happens is your body starts to rebel. That cortisol is making your blood vessels want to constrict. It's making you not feel good. And that's when, if you're at that stage of stress, you really should go to a doctor. You should, it's your body's way of saying, it's protective actually, it's your body's way of saying, you have to pay attention. You have to take care of you.
Because then you're physiologically as well breaking down and probably having all those other issues. Maybe the blood pressure is going up. Maybe there are some other issues going on. So seeking that help and making sure that you've sought out your healthcare professional and keep that routine so that you can discuss issues or concerns or other professionals that are in our area that would help individuals in those situations.
Exactly, exactly.
And so we don't want to get to that point. Obviously we're looking at, we don't want to feel so overwhelmed, so stressed, so maybe anxious or even depressed, you know, where we are non-functioning, where we can't seem to get the day going or be part of the day, and therefore we're not good to ourselves and obviously not good as caregivers or to anybody else for that matter, for anything. So we don't kind of want to get there, and we have one tip for us as far as the hug. Are there some other, I guess what I would look at would be something that would be simple, right there. I mean, you know, I've taken classes and we've participated in things where we've brainstormed as to what we can do, and sometimes they're not simple, easy, or doable at the time. You know, some will say, well, you go shopping. Well, for some folks, caregiving, you can't just go shopping. Or, you know, what can you do, I guess? Do you have some ideas for us to do as a person who needs that extra cortisol or whatever and can really do it simply, inexpensively? What can we do?
Well, I'm going to tell you one that is, you're probably going to say, oh, that can't be. One of the things that they have found in research is that people can have very, very, very high stress levels. But the difference of what makes that harmful to your health, till you get to that point like you just described, or that people just seem to roll with it, even though they all have high stress levels. If you take nothing else away tonight from Ann and from myself, one of the most major things you can do is see the stress as helpful. If you're experiencing or you're feeling stress, it's your body's way of protecting you. It's your body's way of energizing you to deal with whatever comes down and to say, hey, pay attention. Do what you need to do. So I guess I would say, and you probably think this is going to sound silly, love your stress. Love your stress.
So if we see the stress as helpful, so I would assume we use that somehow.
See, it's a mindset. If you see it as a catastrophe, a disaster, a devastation, guess what? Your body's going to respond to messages of devastation, disaster, catastrophe. If you say, let's see, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe there's, you know, a solution to this, problem solving and such. Then your body goes, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe, and it responds to that. Even your blood vessels respond to that.
And I think it sounds easier said than done, because you have to recognize that and realize I'm going to use that to be able to say, okay, this is where I'm stressed. This is what I need to do. Can I do something? Can I be mindful of that? Can I... Again, I always say stop. I mean, I literally say the word stop. It gets those
Saying
thoughts
the word
crazy.
Stop is the #1 thing to do. And actually, Deepak Chopra, who has done a lot of research, he does an acronym of STOP. And STOP to him means, the S means stop what you're doing. Just stop. T means take a few deep breaths. The deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, okay? So S-T. O is Observe your body. Pay attention. Where do you feel stress in your body? That's information. That is telling you how your body experiences your stress, and that's energy there.
Okay.
All right? Then he tells you, observe your body and smile.
Okay.
See, and that's your body. That's your body saying, you know, that's your mind saying to your body, it's not so bad. It's really not so bad, you know.
Okay.
And then the P means proceed with kindness and compassion toward yourself.
I like that.
Stop.
I like that. Okay. So, in the little bit of time we have left, I think we've talked a little bit about the basics, the physiological components of our body, what happens. We need to be healthy in general by what we eat and by our movement, and keeping regular visits to our healthcare professional. And when we kind of are in that caregiver mode and things become a little overwhelming, to recognize that, to look at our body for awareness. And then I like do the hug. See if I got these right now.
Wow.
Okay.
It's good. It's good.
Do the hug. See the stress as helping.
Right.
And that's a little, you know, we're going to have to think about
That's
that.
a tricky
See it
one.
as helping.
That takes practice.
Okay. And then I like the stop and I like the P a lot. I mean, the stop is the stop and observing and taking that breath. And I think that's simple, taking the breath for that 30 seconds or whatever so that we can just stop and relax for a minute and then proceed. And I like that. In wrapping it up, Rita, we're going to, what would you, we have 1 minute to really kind of say for the folks watching us tonight, one last tip, whatever you would recommend for us.
Well, what I would say is pick one thing you've heard here tonight from Ann or from myself, and you're going to keep it in front of you. You're going to be mindful of it. You're not going to get it lost by the by and put on your iPod and forget about it. You're going to put it in front of you. You're going to put it on a stick-on note. You're going to put it on your mirror, and you're going to look in that every day, and you're going to practice it. Whether it be the bicep curls, whether it be the breathing, whether it be the stop, whatever. Pick just one and focus on that and do it for the next 30 days. And give yourself the opportunity to make one change in yourself. That's what I'd say.
Great. Thank you so much. You've shared so much good information with us this evening, and I really want to thank you for being here and being a guest on my show. Appreciate that very much.
My pleasure.
Again, thanks for tuning in to Aging Matters, and we'll see you next month.